Welcome to today's episode of Business, Banking and Beyond. I'm excited to introduce our today's guest, Meghna Dixit, an inspiring HR head turned business transformation consultant and now a successful entrepreneur. Meghna's remarkable journey span across from Muscat to Dubai, where she had worked with top organizations. With a passion for educating and empowering businesses, Meghna founded Mevan Consulting, where she helps entrepreneurs scale with solid strategies, financial modeling, and right compliance. Today, she will share her personal journey as an advisor to legacy businesses, the challenges startups face, and the importance of mental health and overcoming impostor syndrome as a business owner. We will also discuss scaling a business and the critical role of financial planning along the way. Let's hear from Meghna and learn from her wealth of experience in transforming businesses and building strong foundations. So let's get started with Meghna Dixit. Meghna, thank you so much for coming on Business, Banking and Beyond.
Thank you so much, Hemant, for inviting me. I really am excited to be here. Business, banking, and beyond. Business is something that I'm kind of aware of. Banking is something that we all need to be aware of. And beyond is what we're going to talk about. So why not? Let's start.
I have never heard a definition of my own podcast like this, but thank you for mentioning it. I was recently watching this NVIDIA CEO sitting with Mukesh Ambani. So he kind of really changed how NVIDIA, he named it. He said, for Mukesh Ambani said, NVIDIA for me is Vidya. And Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, was laughing. I think you have changed the name for Business, Banking and Beyond today. Thank you so much for that.
Now it is plugged subtly.
So first of all, we'll start with your inspiring journey.
Okay.
How did you start in GCC? I mean, you have a lot of learning from India, but how did you start in GCC?
So this has been interesting. Actually, I moved to GCC when I was the vice president HR of a big company handling the HR of 5 different countries for an international listed brand. Love happened, marriage happened, and I literally moved to GCC with 2 suitcases and a eyes full of dream. And first moved to Muscat. Now, Muscat at that point was a place where the HR head positions were Omanized. What that means is that you have to be an Omani to be at the senior positions in the HR vertical. Now, I've already been the HR head for so many companies, so it was difficult for me to get set foot in the door. Luckily, again, personal branding, people already knew about me on LinkedIn. I tried to find people, and this I'm talking about 2012. I try to find people who are already doing some kind of work there and just meet them for coffee, no strings attached. I met once a gentleman. He runs a very renowned consulting firm in Oman and now in the entire GCC actually. And he said, Meghna, why don't you start an HR vertical for consulting? Because we already have, there's so many upcoming companies, and this is at the verge of transformation, digital transformation, HR transformation, all that was happening in Oman at that time in 2012. And I was like, all right, let's do this. So I moved, became a client. I have always hired consultants when I was the HR head, and that is where the journey started. So it started, GCC actually made me a consultant. So it started with HR consulting, then it moved into strategy consulting, then it became transformation consulting for some of the big brands like Alshaya, Injazat and others. Then now I'm at a stage in my life, I've just entered a new decade of my life, and I realized that all of this wealth of information, it is important to bring it down to the people who are probably at the beginning of their business journey or entrepreneurial journey. And that is where I am now, a founder and chief everything officer of a consulting, Mevan Consulting. And it is all in GCC, so that's what I'm doing.
Meghna, I'll go back to your journey of HR transformation, where it all started for Rehman. So when you were consulting as an HR to the company which you wanted a job rather, but GCC made you an entrepreneur. Then after you became HR, then you became strategic and then transformation. Which all big companies were there and what were your learnings? And from there, how did you move on?
Life has been super exciting. One thing that I like about myself, if I can say, is that I've always been open to opportunity. I've never defined that this is how the role has to be. There were a few things that I was very clear about. I know that I have a bag of tools that I bring to the table every morning. Now, which form or which industry or which format those tools would be sharpened or taught, that I never tried to control. So one of the first consulting work that I did in Oman was actually Royal Oman Police. I have never worked, like imagine a girl from India who's only worked in media and tech and background screening kind of company is working with proper public group and like government company like Oman and then Royal Oman Police and telling them, doing some restructuring for them. Cut to the next project was with Oman Arab Bank. This was a completely different thing. We implemented balance scorecard there. And this was again at a point where, then they were acquired by someone else. And a lot of internal things were also happening while we were trying to set this up. So all sorts of transformation, dynamics, etc. were happening. These are the years 2014, 2015. As you know, a lot of was happening in GCC back then. Moving to...
Sorry to cut you there, Meghna. If it's not confidential, can you share what exactly you were doing for Royal Oman Police and the bank?
That particular I can't because I've signed an NDA. Royal Oman Police is actually the military of Oman. So everything is included there. But it was a very interesting project where we were trying to figure out as basic as setting up Hayes model for job descriptions of people and figuring out the skill set, the succession planning, all of that. So it was a beautiful project.
And in the bank?
In the bank, like I said, we at that point in time, they were setting up a new performance management system. I only worked with the senior team where we worked with the Oman Arab Bank to set up their vision, mission, and then later we set up their balance scorecard.
Okay.
So that was a big project. That was super interesting. And that was the first time actually I worked with a bank. I mean, I know business banking and other, and I realized how much work there is and how amazing it is, RMs and AM and what a big team is. And back then ATM was supposed to be a huge thing. So distribution was a very different model. So for me to understand it first, to be able to put in KPIs for them and then KRAs for them and then educate the bosses so that they can further educate it down. What an amazing project it was. And I learned a lot.
You really liked being a consultant at a bank?
I actually enjoyed it because I was a consultant at a bank.
The reason to ask is, as you know, I have been in banking for 8 years and I loved my job. I was in branch banking, I was in business banking, investments. So I loved all those areas. I really loved how we do things at scale. And of course, safeguarding the best interest of the customers, be it confidentiality. Sometimes feel like banks are like elephants, move too slowly. But again, we have our own restrictions. We have our own safety and protocols, which makes us do that.
And which is super important. I realized that is a place. I mean, there are two companies where I learned that, dotting your I's and crossing your T's is so important. One is when I was consulting a law firm and one working with the bank. The process, the protocol, the compliances, they are so important. And it is also, I think, is instilled into the DNA of a banker. They know how things go. They know how important processes are. They think in process. And that is something beautiful.
And the risk
associated with it. And also one more thing I must say, like people do of course like to complain, etc. But one more thing that I learned there is just the value for customer service. This is also instilled, at least the brands that I worked with.
See,
that they want the customers to be happy. They are very customer focused. They do not see the timing and the hours. If they can release a check today, so they want to do for your best. Frustration aside, if you think from their point of view, they're trying very much, but their hands are also tied with protocol processes and compliances, which is also important because that's how banking industry works.
I remember this is really a nostalgia moment for me. I remember head of customer service coming to me when I was in bank. So he told me that as a bank, there are very small things which we can do in terms of change of process because we have restrictions to safeguard the best interest of the customers. There is one thing only which we are allowed and we should be doing in the best possible manner is customer service.
See?
So that is what, because in other companies or any other processes, you can do multiple things to improve your product. But in bank, you cannot improve product. You have so much approvals required for every single thing.
Exactly.
So the only thing you can do at the best is a customer service.
Nice. And I think now that we are talking about this journey, the beyond side of our journey, I must say, and it just came to me, so I'm talking about it. That is why I encourage everyone who are starting their career or who are probably even few, like jobs down, it's always a nice idea to have diverse experiences. Now think of it this way. Because I got an opportunity to work with a cricket-only broadcast TV channel, I worked in animation industry. I worked with banks. I worked with IT. I worked with retail, like one of the biggest retail of this region. I work now with incubators and others. Now when I talk to businesses, when I'm talking with other businesses, you just realize that the width of your knowledge has increased while you were not actually reading up books, just because you were around with the people, the processes other. I was still me consulting probably a small area of a big work that those guys are doing. But just because to be able to consult, I had to deep dive into their processes, understand their psyche, meet with such diverse level of people and at different functions. It has just made the repertoire of my work so much more dense and beautiful and versatile, which is what I'm now bringing to the table. So like I was talking about the tools sharpening. So you start with the same hammer and the same thing. It just gets upgraded with every little work that you do. And if one gets a chance to do different kind of work, take it up.
And this is what we are here today to discuss on each and every topic for the learnings, for the entrepreneurs, startups and upcoming business owners.
Yes.
So I'll bring you back to your journey again after Royal Bank. What next you did? And from there, how did you move on?
So in between, then I also worked for Polyglot Industries. That was the first time when I was working with the CEO's office. This was a situation where the succession, so the legacy was giving in to the son and he was taking over. So there was there were a lot of subtle things as well. Like how do you guide or lead a team who have seen you as a child? Now you're certainly the boss. You're not the baba of the company. You are the boss. Then you also have to create your own because you are new. You have studied in US. You have come back to Oman with a certain amount of tech knowledge and innovation and all of that in your blood. Whereas this is a traditional business. But you also don't want to remove the foundation of the business, but you are aggressive to grow and scale. What do you need? So that...
So you did the very
he found I think also because I think we were closer in age. I had experience working with the US, UK and other markets because again, I was the HR head there. I actually was hired for a small piece of HR work. He liked me in one of the team and he's like, why don't you be an advisor to me? So that was the first time when I actually, without as much as in writing, but was like a CEO advisor for the next 6 months. And it was super interesting to see those dynamics play out, which it's very easy for the outsider to say. But I always think that the business happens. It's like, it's between the lines, read between the lines. There's so much which is there. You see processes, you see people, you see, probably output and the sales call. But behind the scene is where the magic happens. Behind the scene is where the mindset, behind the scene is where the brains, behind the scene is where you wake up at 5 a.m. and this need to, okay, I want to change these things, but I can't change the whole thing. So where do I start? So you prove yourself in a smaller part, then you grow and bigger and bigger. And kudos to that gentleman. He decided to build team around, which is again a learning that I tell other people now. Always have your two, you can be a king only if you're a great commander-in-chief and others. Otherwise, what is a king, So team, if you have strong people who are loyal to you, who understand your cause, who understand your vision, then you can scale. Otherwise, you will have to do here, how much dream you may have, the everyday firefighting will take you over.
Of course. And that's what is the key of scaling as well. Now I'll move on to the direct questions and things which we really want all the entrepreneurs to learn. The first is not the rosy picture, but the hard picture. What do you think are the challenges for the new startups and entrepreneurs?
I can give you the answers, which I think you have beautifully said in your Instagram and other. I have been noticing. So guys, if you have not watched it, follow him on Instagram. There are so many important startup problems that you've already addressed. And those remain the problem, whether it is navigating the bureaucracy or whether it is cash flow or whether it is a lot of other things, mainland, business setup, etc. I won't go there. That's your territory. I'll try to go deeper and I'll probably tell you the human side of a founder. When a person decides to start a business, what has happened to him? Something has moved. Something has said that, okay, I may get job here, but I have a purpose or a or something that I want to become an entrepreneur because I want to have some kind of impact. My biggest problem, which I see, is a lot of people become an entrepreneur not knowing their why. And that is the first question I ask. If your why is making money, so be it. If your why is passion, so be it. If your why is because you've seen a legit problem like Mama Earth and you really want to solve it because you're passionate about it, then let that be. So knowing the why is the first thing which I feel a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand. They think, okay, I don't want to do a job. I want to do a business. So let's do this business. They create a problem to solve. Right? And that may not be the best way to go about it. To those, my advice would be, why don't you wait there and probably become a co-founder? Someone else has a great idea and follow that person.
Perfectly.
So that is one problem. The second thing which I feel, which is again a problem with a lot of entrepreneur and new and old, is their own mind versus them. And I know you would be nodding on this. I go through it too. Fear of failure and imposter syndrome. Tell me one entrepreneur, I'm sure like Jeff Bezos also had it when he started, right? Everyone has it because the stakes are so high. Most of us start bootstrapped. You have put all your savings into it. Your family is kind of initially supporting you, hopefully. And then when you start hiring employees, they are the reason, like they are asking you questions which you yourself are like just still figuring out, but you can't tell them. So the thing up here can be very lonely, can be very scary. And a lot of people hire a CFO. I'm not saying don't hire CFO and CTOs and other. How about, I think one of the biggest problems is the insufficiency of a soundboard. And then you go for some guru, business guru and mentor. I'm sure they are nice too. People call me also a mentor. But what you need is a logical, advisable, someone who's seen life, someone who understands you, soundboard, so that you don't have to rediscover the wheel again and again. That is a big problem that founders face. And third is, everyone talks about, yes, not networking, network, that is a solution. But for me, it is a step ahead. Network as much as you want, but build relation. The reason why I'm sitting here in the table in front of you is because, okay, you must have found me from some network. But when I leave from here, it is my job or my intention that I build a relationship with you in a way that when you later think of something, you would just remember, oh, Meghna, I should call her. Or I should remember Hemant when anyone asks me, which banking advisory are you talking about? That is building relationship.
I think you have really discussed the crux of it. Now, I will not ask as a podcast guest. I will answer your questions like a founder of Dangad.
Please do.
So the first thing which you put forward is a why. And I really believe that's the first step. Because if you don't know why you are doing this, if you're going for playing cricket, you're doing anything, you know why I'm doing this. There must be a reason, right? Even in your subconscious mind. So when me and Jyoti started on, we were very clear with our why. It was a real problem of banking, a genuine problem, and we wanted to solve that. There was demand and we could serve that demand as well. So we started with Dhanrad Banking Consultant. And as it was a demand, so it just flourished. And then this was not the only thing where we got stuck. Your next thing was, if you can re-mention that, was about
Imposter syndrome, another. Playing against with your own mind.
Yes. So the playing
The resilience.
The resilience. So when we moved on next stage, so I would not say I ever had a fear of failure. I'll be very honest about it. Till date, I don't have fear of failure. Everybody must be having or not, I'm not sure. But what I have is fear of not scaling up.
Fear of success to nahi hai.
No.
Fear of not scaling up. Or scaling.
On time, not scaling up. I'm not behind success. I'm doing my job. So scaling up means I should not be stuck with that product and service which I'm not able to cater to more people who require it. How do I scale it with quality maintained? So that is a little fear where whenever I scale, I have to rethink, okay, am I losing the quality or no? That is the thing which I have fear.
To which, if you allow me, I mean, this is something that has come recently. So there's a founder who has done really well in a particular territory in India and now wants to scale, probably go into new markets. And my point of view on this is scale as much as you want, but prioritize your scaling. What do you want to scale? Do you want to bring in new product line? That is one way of going about it. Do you want to scale in manpower? Do you first need to create a bigger team so that whatever foundation, whatever you're not burning your cash cow. Like it is set, this jelly is set, and then you're moving to another. Or is it that you want to stay as it is, just probably replicate this business model or the success model into some other business? That's a different scaling. Now there, do you want to start your own business? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you can scale through strategic partnership. There are different ways of looking at that strategy. So first decision is I want to scale. Why do I want to scale? Because I think this is set up. So again, know your why of scaling. Do you want to scale because you think you have more to offer? Or have you also seen your financial projections that, okay, this is comfortable. If I, as a founder, am not looking at this business for the next 6 months, it will continue to grow on X ARR. And then I can put my focus into building this baby, whether it is a product, whether it is a new product line, whether it is pivoting in some other market, diversifying, acquiring another business. So that's how I think of it. And I am with you on this, Hemant, because I think before this we had a conversation. Even I feel that there is so much I'm doing and there's so much more I can do. For this, there is a concept. I was on radio recently and this is where I said that there are some people. Have you seen the movie Bunty or Bubbly?
Yeah.
So they said it in a wrong way, that there are some people who want to live a lot of things, do a lot of things in one lifetime. But there are some people who are born with multi-potentiality. So if they're doing the same thing for a very long time, then they feel that they're not offering enough. It's one of their, it's in psychological term, it's called self-saboteur. Like you want to do more. You think, I'm not at my peak yet, I can do something. They like the chaos of starting again from below and then scaling it up. That is the fun part. Fortunately or unfortunately, I am that type. And that is why I also look. So that is why if you see my career, I could have been in a very cushy HR head position, probably could have done a remote job. But no, I started from consulting, rose up there. Then when I kind of nailed the HR consulting game, I said, no, now let's start transformation consulting, then strategy consulting, out of the places. And all these companies had nothing to do with the other. Could have failed, but that's all right, because I see failure as learning. Something else would have come out of it. But so you have to bet on yourself, but at the same time scaling, because a lot of people are involved, investors' monies are involved, then just go prioritize and then go for it.
So we discussed starting up. What is your why to start it up? Then scaling it up. Even you mentioned that there has to be a reason of scaling up. Why? I never looked that in that scenario the way you have mentioned it, but I had these things in back of mind, that what exactly these things are. Like you mentioned about, do you want to increase your product offerings, or you want to increase manpower, the team, or you want to pivot into a different business using the same team, or scaling the same business model, or scaling the same tech. So if I were to answer as Dhangad, I would not add product offerings at all. I would not pivot as well. I want to first be a master of the products which I offer and scale them. But saying that, some of the founders or some of the companies, when they hit wrong target market, when your target market does not have scope, like if I'm in a target market which is X crores only and we cannot go beyond that, that is where sometimes founders get stuck. So what is your advice on that?
Oh my God, you're actually poking me at a place which is, so this whole thing about TAM.
Yes.
Is what you're talking about.
Correct.
So this TAM came into the picture. Why? Because some, maybe YC or something in US, they said that this is a total addressable market and let's talk about it. Personally for me, because I come from I'm a B school graduate. I come and I also have this, I'm a profitability oriented kind of a person. So valuation is one thing, I understand. But I drift because I'm not that academic and I've not done multiple degrees into business setting up and all of that. I divert towards common sense. If supposing I'm selling you this mic, I can understand that probably there are 100,000 people who might be doing podcast. But just to assume that all of these 100,000 people will be buying my mic is how they calculate TAM, right? So for me, and basis that, then I multiply it by whatever my product and I make that a valuation of my thing. In one of, I don't know if you know Arjun Vaidya, in one of his stories in Instagram, he said something very funny. He said that fiction is made on Excel sheet.
True.
What a beautiful line, right?
Got the
It's
sense
like
of-
fictional stories that people are making. So it can be a great value add or an ego exercise for me sitting here, Maven. Everyone who wants to start up a business here would be calling up Maven consultant and getting the advisory from us. Or everyone who wants to set up a business would come to you and set up their business. Everyone who wants banking. No, that is not the way to go about it. You have to understand your own business first. And you have to go milestone wise that, okay, how much money do I need to earn X amount? Like how many people will I need to serve to make X amount, which is my this year's target? Am I doing that enough? Am I paying 15 people's salary? If I increase it by 25, how much more do I need to do? Can they be value add in this additional market, in this market itself? So look at the subset and the set of that TAM and then work on that. Like my thing is that go from small to big. That is how I feel. And never underestimate competition. What people forget is that, okay, this is total addressable market, but you're not the only one serving in that market. Others are there too. They probably can have people pocket. They probably can have better relationship. Their product is better than yours.
Variables and
Yeah. So then you can collaborate. Many places. Now, how you convert competition is a fun thing.
so basically you're saying don't go for the market chase.
Don't look at the size of the market and decide well, it's great for valuation to raise funds, etc. But that is not how you make your business strategy, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
You start, and especially if you're a founder, then you work in quality circles, as I would like to call it. Like, give it to few people in the market that you think would take. Take continuous customer feedback. Then you realize that, okay, in this person, this nationality, these many percentages of people with this purchasing power are the ones who are buying my product again and again and again. Probably out of this TAM, this is where my niche. Come to the niche. Make the Raja, become the king of that niche. Like how you were saying. And then you scale. Then you see what you want to do. I think Talabat is a great example. Talabat did that, right? Before coming to Dubai, etc., they actually focused on a very small geographical territory. They wanted to be the preferred source of, food, I won't call it a food tech, but food delivery in that region. And years that were there, just becoming the best. They were not happy. So they did like 20% and from 50%. And they acquired the 80% market. That's when they said, okay, now let's go big.
I think that is what I get sense of it, and I've seen a lot of founders speaking about it. It helps you in two sense, which I've seen is, one is you have already built a brand, one thing. So when you replicate the brand, you will not do the same amount of marketing which you would do if you're half here, half there. Second is you're already the master of operations. So the cost which you will incur to scale that company in that territory will be far less than if you're half here, half there. Again, so that is what I am also.
Team. So you've got the process right. Now the people also, this is where you will move on to other things and you can give them a succession plan. You can tell them that, okay, you were an area manager for this. Now you go to this territory and build this business. You become the SB owner. You understand? That is a game plan for them. So they also feel that, yeah, I want to work here because I'm going to be like the boss here. I've learned everything here and I will replicate. It is never just about me. Entrepreneurship, it's not an individual contributor job unless you are like a CA firm or just probably if I decide to just be a mentor by myself. It is a teamwork. So if they see you grow, they also want growth and you want people who want to grow.
Absolutely. Without team, you're not an entrepreneur at all.
So sure, share that vision to them.
So I think we discussed the why of starting your business, why of scaling your business. Now I want to know, how do you navigate through the roadblocks in a startup, as an entrepreneur, which you see across and then still weaving through it and making it?
See, entrepreneur is a very nice term for firefighting. Every morning you come to the office and you say that, all right, I'm going to look at my balance sheet. I'm going to do this and we scale that. And probably, your some team member would come and say, 4 people are getting married in December and they're going to go and leave. And now what do we do? Or this customer did not like this particular thing. Now what do we do? So first thing about, the pitfall of entrepreneurship is again to get the definition right. You are going to be the person who will have to work the hardest, the longest hours, and need to have all the answers either by yourself or through your tie-ups or through your advisory and support that I talked to you about before. So that is one important thing. Now, to be able to do that, of course, you need fitness. So you must be hiring a personal trainer, right? Going to the gym. What are you doing about this? Because all this is here, because it is a fact that I think there was a study done which says that 60% of the founders are burnt out by the end of like first year or second year, emotionally burnt. No one talks about the loneliness. Yes, there are quotes about things are lonely at the top of the mountain. Ask a founder. There are probably things, unless they are co-founders, husband and wife are working together, there are probably things you would not even be able to tell your closest friends or other, because you don't want to be judged. Also, you don't want to even say it out loud that, okay, I only have a runway of 3 months. What do I do next?
I don't say even a runway, financial things, but because there is a lot of confidentiality, you cannot speak with your sales head sometimes the same. Because if you have two sales head, you cannot speak to one. So somewhere you feel lonely.
And anyway, when you're a startup, you've probably, if you've got a nice sales head, you probably poached him from a very cushioned job from a big company. He's working with you probably at a lower than market price salary because you only have a ticket size which you can afford. So if you start pouring on your problems to this guy, he'll be like, this business is not going to work. Take the next offer and go. In UAE, market is hot right now, isn't it? So a lot of things that are happening. So another pitfall is not taking care of your mental health. People overestimate their break point. It can happen very fast, very soon. So how you're taking care of your physical health, please take care of your mental health as well. If it requires taking therapy, taking a business coaching, please do that. The third thing, very important, what I've recently noticed is there are a lot of entrepreneurs which I call a very passion-based entrepreneur. What that means is they could be great techies. They could be from media and they've started. And a lot of them feel that this financial, books, compliance, etc., we'll do it next year. We'll see about it later. That is gonna be such a costly mistake. And I'm sure you have seen this more than I have. Even if, so you're saving this 2,000 dirham or 3,000 dirham worth of expenses in getting a corporate tax or getting your books audited or getting some advisor who's worth his money right now, because you're thinking that, no, this 3,000, I would rather pay for a newspaper ad somewhere for marketing. You do not mess around with your financial modeling. You do not mess around with your compliance, not in this country. And you don't even have to be in the fin sector, like financial sector, any sector.
Any sector.
Your books should be clean, and if you are an entrepreneur, learn finance. Or have a co-founder who's amazing, at least 10% like CA value he's bringing in.
The way I put it is not something which is compelling you to do financial modeling or knowing the laws. After running the company for 4.5 years, I've literally believed that if you want to build a long-term company, you have to work around the law and the compliance for the better of the company. It is not for the sake of doing it. The law and the compliances will help you to build a long-term company. You cannot create processes from your mind. It has to be written. That is what the compliance is all about. Then making sure people are adhering it to it.
And just not knowing, there are so many things, at least in Dubai, if you actually start learning it, then there are so many grants that you're missing on. There are so many tax benefits that you're missing on just because you are not aware of it. So there are advantages of knowing it too.
Yes.
This is a country which actually values good citizens and rewards them. It's the same with business.
I felt it very strongly that if you really follow the compliances, make the compliances in your company, internal, external, and follow the laws, be it any law, it is the greater good for your company and you as well.
I mean, think of you must have, like you're an entrepreneur and you're celebrating because you closed a quarter biggest number than ever. And then next morning you get a letter which says that, okay, you've been fined 10,000, whatever, 30,000 because you did not hire the people as required, or, your amortization quota was not, whatever it is, or financial, something. That is a big amount. It's not a small. And credibility, reputation. They can, what will you tell your investors? What will you tell your customers?
I'll put it in a better way. Leave the external forces, be it government, be it anyone else. I will tell you a simple example. If you are taking up an agreement or a contract which is worth a very big amount and you didn't sign an agreement, it's a compliance. You should sign an agreement, you should raise an invoice, everything which you should do in a proper manner. and then later on the client is not paying, what will you do?
Even there are chances that the client may not pay even after this, but at least here in that case, you can go to the government and it's a very sure, short, easy process then.
So
If as long as you are
you don't work on trust in a business only. It has to be written on paper with properly signed and followed compliance and processes with. So that's why I'm so much in favor of compliances, laws all the time.
Yeah, I think another fourth point now that we're talking about it is that I want to put in one of the, again, biggest pitfall of entrepreneurs that they go through is that not having a signed contract with their own co-founders. Who are the one you're doing business with? In my case, if I ever decide to have a co-founder, there are 2 or 3 things that has to be there. Can you sit with this person for 16 to 18 hours in a room? Can you just sit with this person for 16 to 18 hours? Can you trust him enough that you can give him your bank account? And is he complementing you in some way? So supposing I'm very good with sales and strategy, etc., then he should be amazing at operations and tech or something. And is he balanced himself? And then you give yourself that freedom. And then I have noticed, and a lot of startups, what they do is that they just meet someone probably on Zoom and other, and let's start the business. And a great product, a great idea, 2 years down the line, the co-founders don't get along. Who suffer? The business suffer, the employees suffer, and gone. And investors like angel investing, like you've lost your money. If at least the paperwork was right between the co-founders, the business would have gone. The moment you become an entrepreneur, that going concern is an important thing. Your business is bigger than you. You have to think about it. It's like having a child. So how we plan for our will, how we always keep some money for the child that God forbid something happens to us, they would still be able to go to college, etc. And entrepreneurs don't think for the sustainable period, a sustainable growth for their business. And that is a problem.
A very big problem, 100%, that verbal things never matter and they go in vain when you are really on that stage. Everything which matters is on paper. So I highly suggest everyone, to whatever you do, even if it is a quotation, anything, it should be on papers.
My God, I have burnt my fingers doing this. Like now I'm able to say it because there is an experience. There are people sometimes who you look up to who are great people and you say that, okay, we do it. But if you've not done it with paper, sometimes you would be very deeply disappointed that, and then you are at the mercy of them. If it is a paper, then they are also due to give you their end of the bargain in a timeline. But if there is no paper, then they will do it when they want to. So you're not bringing the professionalism in your business.
I'll give you an example on the same with insurance and investment industry where there is a callback happens if you're taking an insurance or investment. So recently in Dangad as well, what we did is that there are a lot of regulations which are changing. So if we offer a product, we will tell you verbally and we will send you email as well that, like for example, visit visas. Right now, if we issue a visit visa, there are chances that the airport in your country will stop you. It is nothing related to UAE, but they can stop you because of their own regulations. So we were informing, or the companies are informing the clients, but they're still not taking care. They're just thinking that UAE consultant has to inform, but 250 countries are there. So many people are coming. It's very difficult for us to know what will happen in that airport. So we literally started giving a declaration signed that we are issuing this, but you have to check at your airport before flying in.
And then they sign on it.
And then they started taking it.
Nice.
So that is what we go up to.
It's discipline. It's just the discipline and the art of doing business. There's a reason. There's a reason why CAs have to go through years of company laws and contracts and other. And like I said, in the fair weather, everyone is good to each other. Those contracts are for when things may go wrong. Or we take our life also to, like as if we are there for whenever, if something happens to you, if things change, people evolve, people start to do this business, those contracts are called contracts because they will contractually obligate the other party to do or serve what they are supposed to. So yeah, absolutely with you on signing them.